Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live or listening to the replay. Always appreciate the live listeners that come into the podcast on YouTube and everyone else that comes in through the replay. Always appreciate you all. You're listening, tuning into the vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Once again, just want to thank you all for tuning in live. And everybody in the replay. We always say thank you. It's always appreciated because there's so many people that have tuned into the vault for years, and we still to this day have, we get people that have tuned in for years. 2 plus years, 3 plus years, 4 plus years. So we always appreciate everybody that tunes in live and listens in the replay. So today's episode is 184: Public Trust versus Private Trust. Once again, that's episode 184: Public Trust versus Private Trust. And this is going to be, a classic episode of what, people are stating that they want to do and live and be and all this good stuff. So, it's going to incorporate quite a bit, quite a bit, quite a bit for, people to get this, type of relationship with knowledge. And we might have to just start out by saying that a trust is a secret. So, your father that sees in secret will reward all your hard work openly. So, let's just, get into it. But we also have knowledge for people that are saying, hey, look, what's going on with the public market? Public markets look like they're recovering. Public markets are starting to look like, you know, the financial sector hasn't been touched or hit, and it hasn't. Just want to make that very clear. It hasn't. Financial capital is still moving. So we see paper being moved. Not necessarily exponentially, but we do see that. And so this episode is to talk about possibly holding capital. Um, if it's not just talking about holding capital, it's being a trustee, not a beneficiary. And so this is why we're doing this episode is because so many people say, "Oh, we want to go private," but then when they're faced with the rules of you can't file for public things, they forget. And we get so many that not necessarily don't cross over, but the ones that do cross over, they're aware of that. The ones that don't, hey, we're gonna just say we're going soon. Somehow, some way, we'll get there. The question is immediately, are you looking to be a steward over your family's estate? Period. And that could take total domination over a person's life because most people are used to going to work for someone if you're 80% of the population. So the public trust looks like you're the beneficiary or someone's a beneficiary, but you can't play both positions. This is where they say people get into trouble. That word. Why? Because someone's trying to play more than two positions, and at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, there is no two positions. There's only one. It's your perspective. And your perspective on you growing your family's estate and you taking control of your mind. It's not having somebody else tell you how to manifest money. It's not somebody else telling you here's the crumbs off of the table of our abundance. The conversation is different. So when we get into public and private, see, public is supposedly everybody's pot. It's the so-called village that it takes to raise a child. But then when we look at the statistics don't lie. Why? Because people actually do fill out these actuaries. They fill out these, you know, pieces of information. People give up information all the time. That's that while we're in the information age. People are giving up information. So the private, has it. It's so interesting to hear how many people on the private side recently have said, just these are like newcomers to the table and they say, oh, there's an attack on the private side. No, it's not. There's no attack on the private side. Why would someone that lives the private life pass a law that would go against them? Since you're living in a law abiding citizen era, So we got the public. Why do you think they call it a living one? A living trust is a public trust. Domestic. Everybody says, oh, we used to have this audience that used to come through. Oh, we got our 9A number. We're private. Sure, you did. And then we got these guys on the internet that they say, oh, we got this, that, and the third. But what does that serve you if you don't have the management skills to grow assets? See, in the private, you work from a strategic position of grow assets and increase cash flow. Whereas on the public side, it says go apply for a job. Somebody else is in control. Why? Because they're the business owner. See, in the private, you have to take a risk. As a private trustee, you take the risk. That's it. It's no more safety net. I know a lot of people will say, oh, well, I'm going to jump in at one point. All you're doing is delaying in the inevitable, your demise. If the dollar that you're holding is losing value, see, some people say, oh, the dollar's not losing value. Ladies and gentlemen, you all know what inflation is. Let's act like we actually took some classes or some things online about how things are done, particularly how financial capital is created. So there's a few, they won't catch it right now. But we're talking to the audience that wants to catch it, that says, maybe I do need to move today. It is a movement today. Public trust versus private trust. Why? Because the public side is beneficiary. That's why we did an episode called State Beneficiaries versus Private Trustees. Who are you? The cost. Everyone says it's the cost. You have to pay the cost to be the boss. It's a risk. Some people actually look at the now and don't look at the future enough. If you know you're going to have more money in the future, why not put the bets on the odds right now? You can. That's the risk that you take in the private. It's the ultimate risk. It's where some people actually come forth and they say, you have to believe in yourself. At the vault, we don't say that. You actually have to have skills. You either are good at leading people or you're not. So, as we move forward with trusteeship, public trusteeship, think about who's the public trustees. See, we're talking public trust and private trust. Wow, some people say they're dipping and diving into private. First of all, in the private, we advertise how much assets under management we have under control. Whether it's a million, whether it's a billion, a trillion, we tell you this is how much money we're playing with. So when people in the public want to talk about the trusteeship or the beneficiaryship, if a person is in a position of beneficiaryship, what information are you getting? You're the beneficiary. What type of financial leverage? There is none. You're a beneficiary. But what about the trustees on that side? They're in control. But when we're on the private side, the numbers are big as day. X, Y, and Z assets under management and X, Y, and Z company. And traditionally they are on public side companies, but they're still privately held. That's the purpose. People say, oh, should we go back into the public and do business? Ladies and gentlemen, where's the government contracts that everyone's buying government bonds and all these other things? And it's just like, really? Well, what are those things? You went K through 12, where you given some type of financial knowledge on what a security is. People have securities license to sell people securities. Securities can be considered a contract, which can be part of private. So securities didn't start in the public. Did they tell you that? No. So it's a lot of babies that may be still coming up in knowledge and say, hey, where do I start? Do I go into business for myself? Ladies and gentlemen, this is business, not personal. That's the first rule we establish with the families. Why? Because in the public, it's personal. If somebody's looking for something, for the group. Whereas the private, it says focus on your family. Some people may consider that selfish, but when you think about it, isn't their family names running the spot? Rockefeller, Carnegie, it just comes down to it. There are names that will echo through time right now because they've set themselves up in perpetuity. So it comes down to, are you managing the family estate? Are you putting in the work for the family estate? Are you working double time for the family estate? Or are you willing to work for someone else double time? We hear everyone that goes to the private say, yep, I was more focused on everything, but I wanted to focus on my family. So the private says, okay, it's about family. It's a clear distinction from the public where it's not about that. And we understand it. Some people say, well, we have family services in the public. And this, that, and the third. Sure, they do. A lot of people have family services in the public. And are you the beneficiary of rules? Or are you walking in your private contract status? Supposedly all these families that are private, but how are you private and you're not exercising contract? The men and the women aren't exercising contract in a relationship. So if you don't exercise a contract inside a relationship, how are the business affairs going to be conducted outside of that? They're going to be where people are tacitly agreeing to contracts that they don't even know. They haven't picked up the Black's Law Dictionary yet. They haven't read the book that they need to know that, okay, I need to know the language that I'm walking into, which is called business. It's not personal. See, we are in a commercial jurisdiction. Oh, I'm in nature and I'm picking bananas off the tree. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the public and the private. You know what that is. It's equity. Oh no, what is that word? Oh my gosh, it sounds so crazy. Can you say it again? Equity. Hold on. Equity? Yes, equity. It's almost like electricity. It's like currency. If you don't have money, which is almost an equity, then it's like a commodity because if you don't have enough of it, it's gone away. It's a commodity. Money's a commodity, currency's a commodity, everything's a commodity. Your time is a commodity. Oh no, what do you mean? My life and my time is a commodity? How many hours a day do I have to calculate my time? How much time do I have to calculate for the family estate? Oh no, I wasn't thinking about family. I was thinking about getting the money. Okay. I was thinking about doing the business. Okay. Okay. But what did that do to contribute to the family estate? See, we did it all for perpetuity, for sure. If not anything else, we did it for perpetuity. That means to do it forever. Oh no, I don't know. How could that be possible? Guess what? There are people before us, we know their names. I mean, we're not going to wait for the public trust to give us any handouts as a beneficiary because that's the only position you can benefit from. That's why they call it the beneficiary. So we're going to go to the private and stay in the private. Drop what's considered names, corporations, titles. Taxes chase title. What title, what position are you? Trustee of an estate? Your family's estate? So we think about the greats. People say, oh man, why I wasn't ready for this moment. You want to know why you said that to yourself? Because you weren't prepared. That's the bottom line. Many people weren't prepared because they didn't use their logic. They didn't use their business acumen. They might have been creative. They might have started a business, might have tried to start a business, but we're talking about business acumen now. We're talking about logic, sequential thinking, which most people that went to school and got a degree were supposed to know how to do, but clearly every MBA does not have a business. They can't survive right now, supposedly. They're accepting stimulus checks. Are you serious? Beneficiaries. So we're going to talk about the trusteeship. You don't because you know if you're a beneficiary, you get what's coming to you. People have called the vault for years. Oh man, you got the people that are on the public side. They'll say, "Hey, um, well, we want to know, how ours is going to be different. Our lawyers telling us this, that, and the third." It's like, okay, well, why are you even trying to inquire about the private? Well, because we know the private is superior. So, okay, you either hire somebody that knows how to get the private done or you don't. We always would encourage people on the line. We would say, Google a private attorney. Since it's so easy, it's not facile. It does take the blood, sweat, and tears of years of reprogramming to a business mindset for the ages. If someone says they're going to work for 30 years, you're right. You do need to study business for the next 30 years. Not even go to college and say, oh, I got a degree for 2 years and that qualifies me. Paper doesn't qualify you, actions, results do. That's what qualifies people in the private. The numbers speak for ourselves. When we can put together rooms of people where you can see that guess what? You're not the only doofus in the room, if you know what I mean. And neither are you the only smart person in the room. When you're in the room with other smart people in the private, see, you can respect other people in the room in the private because you respect the fact that they know what they're talking about because they're in the same boat, actually. Why? Because in the private, it's almost like a self protection group. Whereas on the public side, it's all every man for himself. And they think that it's group orientated conversation. It's every man for himself. That's the truth. What do you mean it's every man for himself? It's every family for himself. You gotta protect your family. But oh no, this conversation might be different for the ones that say, man, I'm trying to make some money. I need a job, whatever, whatever. We're not talking to that. We're talking to public trust versus private trust, and then trustee training. Or you're either a beneficiary on the public side, because that's all you can be. Unless you're going into politics, you're on the beneficiary side. So, what's the benefit of being in the public at this point, ladies and gentlemen? What is the benefit of you sitting over there saying, hey, we're going to accept these rules and regulations and yada, yada, yada? No worries. But at the same time, what benefit is it for someone to have rules and regulations dictated to them? As far as commercial valley, how your lifestyle is. Oh man, you can't have these shoes if you don't have this capital. Well, it's like, okay, well, how much capital do you need? It sounds like you need a lot of capital. You're right. Financial capital, not just human capital. Human capital. Human capital has, to me, just become barbecue. We could say they're almost mildew. But nevertheless, they're about to fertilize the greatest technological revolution that the world has ever seen. There's a greater demand for technology right now, and basically we just saw that happen in front of our eyes. That's one of those moments where you say, okay, that was like 2000 when the internet it really took off. Right after 2002, internet just took off. People were hopping back on, people were on Microsoft, they were on Facebook, and then they've been on those sites ever since. And the websites and the companies are just going to keep on growing. And we see the marketplace just changing people's lives. When people say, oh, it isn't private on the public side, you're right. It's no negotiation. The private side is self-containing. They're saying we don't want even to have an internet at the house. Otherwise, it's a hard line. A lot of trustees on the private don't even want internet at their house. They have it at the office. They go to the office. It's arm's length distance dealing. You say, man, that's the extreme. You're right. But we're giving you the extreme so you know where you can look for. When you get to that point, you're scratching your head saying, man, I don't really need internet at the house anymore. Like, I'd rather just kind of have like a place where I go because I just want to be more out and doing what I do, enjoying my life. Not being stuck to the computer, not being stuck to technology, not being stuck to what people consider private. Private is not posted online. But hey, you know how it is, ladies and gentlemen. People haven't fully pulled themselves out yet. You know how that goes. But people are on their own path. So we don't need to look at the next man and say, oh man, I see him posting pictures online and you hang out with him. Isn't he where he needs to be financially and this and the third? Look, it's not time to be looking at someone else's pockets. It's business, not personal. So if that's the public is looking at other people's pockets. The private says it's focused on family. You're focused on growing your family from a creative position. It does involve left and right brain thinking. It involves you reading every single day. It involves you focusing on your breathing every single day. It focuses you on taking care of your health. Everyone says your health is your wealth. Yeah, it sounds like a cheap cliche. Oh, your health is your wealth. But then when your health is not your wealth, what happens? Of course, we have to take care of our bodies. We're stewards, once again. We're trustees of our bodies. So you have to get up and put in the work for your body. You have to do what it takes to make sure your body's in a peaceful and a restful state. Not saying it's always stressed out. It's hypertension. It has all these diseases. Your body's diseased because your mind is diseased. You have to get it out of your mind. It takes the mind focus. When you're focused, you don't see all of that. When you're focused, people ask you questions. You say, "Oh no, I was daydreaming. I was thinking about my dream. I was thinking about what I'm supposed to be doing right now and doing it." Because in the private, there is no days off. In the public, you get days off because it's the public. There is no days off in the private. You think a private trustee can take the time off to go and say, "Oh, we're going on vacation"? We already told you they're not called vacations anymore. They're called site visits. They're retreats. But hey, people do it's business trips. Everybody knows everything's business. It's not personal on the private side. It's an ingrained thought process. Ladies and gentlemen, we've seen a transition in the marketplace. We don't know where it's gone. Maybe we're not on the internet enough over at the vault right now. But one thing for sure we know at the vault, what we've seen is a bunch of families in the public and they've been disintegrated. And they've been scattered apart, immobilized to connect. And that's what's going on in the public side. In the private side, families are mobilizing. They're working together. See, people on the public side say, "Oh, business stopped. It stopped for non-essential businesses." On the public side, it didn't stop for non-essential businesses. On the private side, it didn't stop for non-essential businesses. It didn't stop for those. It didn't stop for anything. The private side kept going because they had essential businesses. And what's that? Financial capital, ladies and gentlemen. We already know what it is. It's financial capital. You all know this. You all know what game we're out here playing. We're walking through a world that literally says that piece of paper with somebody's face on it has some type of material value. And for that reason, there's a thing called an exchange. So we get into these. Now we get into what's considered that commercial value system. And you all know what that system is. That's the private side, just like it is the public side. The public side is the handouts, the private side is the creation. On the private side, yes, you have to go within, you have to pull out the talents and abilities and pull out something out of your own heart and out of your own mind and actually create something. And you'll see the benefit of, hey, not only can I create one thing, I can create multiple things. Maybe that's the reason why most people have had the fear to never succeed in life, is because they knew if they created one time, they have to keep creating. But so what? But that is the case. Now people have seen the shift that there is a greater need to focus on creating for thyself, for thy family, heirs. But people want to do dances in front of cameras with their family. How many families have shown that they actually were making money over the internet? They didn't. They were sharing that they were spending it. That's what's on the public side. On the private side, you see private webinars going on, private education. You actually see still a connection where the private networks are still moving. The private is going to force the creation, whereas the public side, we already see what that is. It's being a minimization, a handout. So there's this artificial auspice entity called a public trust that's out there. It's someone's the trustee of it. And somebody's out there and they're going to take care of the public. So who's a part of that? Whoa, I never said our family's a part of that. Did you say that, honey? I didn't say that. Our family's not a part of that. Why would we want to be a part of the equal division of nothing? What do you mean nothing? Honey, where are they getting that from? We didn't even give ours. So where they are they giving us back something we didn't give them? That's the public. And we see that. So many people say, oh man, is it really true? Do I need to replay this to hear that part? Yes, you do. Because the faster you know that it's business, not personal, you'll know what jurisdiction you're in. It's business, not personal. What's personal? Home with your family. But then your family is your business. See, oh man, I don't want to believe that it's business. That's that third world thinking. That's you thinking low vibrations. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just like you need light in your house, you need money. It's that simple. I'm sorry to make it so goddamn simple. It's that simple. You need money like you need light in your house. Thomas Edison created a light. You have light in your house. You have electricity flowing for other people creating these electrical currents. If you're not going to adapt to the entire environment, you will perish. That's the public. See, when you're in the private, you create for yourself. So you might not have to need electricity. You might need candles. You might have your own electricity. You might have solar in the private. You become self-sustaining, self-sufficient. That's what's going on in the private. Oh man, I gotta know how to cut my own hair. I gotta cook more. Once again, the mentors prepared us for these moments. See, in the private, we're focused on preparation. In the public, they're focused on just living, what they say, one day at a time. Everybody wants to say that they're living one day at a time, like they were ever living anything outside of that. But maybe and then you hear the truth. People are living in the past with their mentality, or they're trying to create this fantasy in the future. And right now, the situation, life, calls for us to man up and woman up. And some people may say, whoa, what does that mean? It means taking the word seriously. It's not the messenger, it's the message. It's the word. It's the word that whether you're reading in a book or you hear it through the internet, you hear the word because you're a doer of it, not just a hearer. So many people want to go ahead and hit the earshot. They're perishing. They ain't even know it. They ain't even know it. Because you perish for a lack of knowledge. So what were the times for right now? The times were for extra study, to pivot as a culture, to pivot as a family. There are families they haven't had to pivot. We know families that make parts for the company Ford cars. That's all they needed to do, and they're still wealthy because they make a part for the car. But they have successive generations now, multiple generations actually, that they're 3 generations deep, and they're thinking about tech ideas. They're doing their best to social proof their business by going into green friendly businesses. You've already seen the hemp industrial complex come in. The hemp industrial complex is one of those ones that was like oh, it was taken away for 200 to 300 years. Are you serious? Yes. So you're telling me hemp has been put on the back shelf to tobacco? Yeah, it's like there are families that have made it a point to control these industries for 800 years. When people think, oh, wow, there's no controlling of a market, there is a true controlling of the market for hundreds of years. Think about it. If you can live 60 to 80, all you need is a one progenitor, and bam, you're into 100 years. So when we see estate transference or private trust, we see trust being done completely. People trust their intuition in the private because they know that no one's above them. That's how we are to live as trustees in the private and families. It does take us to cut the TV off and get back to sitting there and making plans, executing plans viciously, looking to Not go into maybe complete domination of the marketplace, but to make our stamp on the marketplace. Ladies and gentlemen, people are buying families when they buy designer brands. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're buying a family, and that's perfectly fine. Some people are good at making designer clothes. Some people are good at making music that actually is healing and uplifting and healing. Music is meant to be healing, not degrading. So people are hurt by the fact that the music is hurting them. And they won't create because the music's hurting them. Oh, the music helps me drown in my sorrows. Really? That's called living in the past. The music is to heal you and uplift you. Oh no, I can't believe he said that. Well, I thought I was going to listen to the downgrade. Yeah, and now you're downgrading. You're not upgrading. You upgrade in life when you upgrade your knowledge base, when you upgrade your association, when you upgrade your body. That means actually working it out because you're a steward of it on the private side. You're a trustee of it. We understand it from that level, all the way through and through. The trustee mindset. You see so many people that may not have it. The mentors told us to quit. Why would the mentors tell you to quit? Because they knew the generation that was coming up. They knew that they would have to pick up the mantle of leadership. The mantle of leadership, the price is heavy and not for many to bear. And when we talk about public trust or private, the private does recall or cause people to have that leadership skill for your family. You have to be the leader. Oh man, I have to be the leader. I have to tell people what to do. I have to roar on people. Yes, because that's what the times call for. It's never not called for that. There are many, they won't get the message. That's not for you to care. Many will not get the message. Why? Because they can't handle that it's business, not personal. The ones that can handle it's business, not personal, you're always going to gravitate towards the capital. So you already understand, okay, as long as you're in a commercial jurisdiction, you're going to be focused on capital. See, when you step out of the commercial jurisdiction, you're back in nature. You're back in the private. You're back in self-sustaining. You're back in homeostasis. You're in what's considered that protective shell. Well, guess what? You got to do that with both of the situations, public trust or private trust. You got to create that homeostasis, ladies and gentlemen. You got to create that home, that equitable estate for your family. Bottom line. And you say, well, are you serious? I'm about to go from zero to hero. I mean, from the 0 0 to the actual million with 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 minimum? Yes. Why do you do that? Because it's the right thing to do. First of all, most people in their lifetimes make $1 million. That's just being honest. If you work 30 years, you probably at least made $1 million your entire life. So what's the point of sitting here saying you're going to delay millions? We saw somebody have a post on the internet the other day say, "Oh, we're going to make our first million in the next 5 years." You don't. That's the wrong thinking. The wrong thinking. The right thinking is how fast do you want to make it and putting your number up and working on how fast you want to get it. Period. We don't live in those constraints in those worlds. It's the fact that we already got to deal with Gregorian time in the first place. What's the purpose of sitting here delaying your goals? Oh man, I got to get up like they're happening today. Yes. When did you get guaranteed or promised tomorrow? But maybe the good books have you sitting around thinking you got years to wait. Oh, the Messiah is not coming yet. No, that's not the case. Everything is upon us right now. It's always been upon us. That's why it's called the right now. It's a clear identification of what we are to be doing, working right now. Oh man, is that serious? Hey, look at your family. See, we don't need to say we need to go out and look at the world. Look at your family. How does your family look? How does your family move? And that's the private trust. The public is what? You going out trying to spread the good word and spread the good peace and, spread the good this and, spread. Whereas in the private, it says, okay, now we're in here together. We got to actually talk about the numbers. We got to talk about our talents. We got to come up with contracts. Oh man, really? Once again, we go back to this. Oh man, I got to do this with my family. Yes, because if they're not willing to do that, then that means they're not trying to be married with you in law. Remember how people are in laws and families? Because you're married in law through families. People are. So, what's wrong with that? But oh man, put this contract together. I gotta be up all night. I gotta do these contracts. I don't know what an operating agreement is. Ladies and gentlemen, we know people that make over $100,000 a year. That for all the trustees, this shouldn't be a surprise. That make over $100,000 a year, have a business, and don't know what an operating agreement is. Don't know what corporate bylaws are. This is interesting. These are people that may or may not even have a business degree. But the fact that you have generated that type of currency and you are not abreast of certain elements shows that there's a massive what? There's my people perish for a lack of knowledge. They supposed to be seeking knowledge. You supposed to be studying when you're not working and then sleep. That's it. But oh no, that's the hard message, man. I'm trying to get a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of the sports. The spirit has given you a break from the sports. There's no sports right now, supposedly on the public side, so it's time to study in the private. This is where wealth is created, in the private, anyways. So we're in the private now, and we're here. We're saying, oh man, how are we gonna go in the private? What's so crazy is so many people listen to the vault and they came through. It was like a train. The vault is a stop. We actually made ourselves a stop on the information highway. You get a name, that's called a name, a person, whatever, and then you have a stop on the information highway. And guess what? The information highway is moving a lot of content. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to move on with your lives. The vault hasn't really been out touching the public and trying to get any more public sentiment. Public sentiment is depressing. Straight up, they're depressed. They have nothing good to say about anything going on in the world right now. You don't see those type of things. You don't hear the good that people supposedly are doing. People are doing more negative because of the fact that there might be depressing times out there. So if you're focused on the public, it's hard to focus on the private. But the private families, they're inside the house and they're working together right now. I can't believe that's true. Yes, that's the truth. Private families are working together right now. They're doing business. They're not just making plans, they're executing right now. Why? Because guess what? The world's still going on. So who do you think has the world going on if the public side supposedly was shut down or had taken a break? Well, the private side kept it going. Remember, they said we're going to give a stimulus package. Where did they get the funds from? The private. Oh no, I paid into that. I'm in the public. Okay, so we're talking about beneficiary status then. You're public trust beneficiary status. That's what you are. So you actually receive something and then you paid it back and now you're trying to get it back again. It's like a habitual cycle of ignorance because you perish from the lack of knowledge. So then we get to the private trust and then we say, okay, now I'm the trustee. Oh man, I'm over here. I was given a public school education. You know, look, I don't know how to create a business. I don't know where to start. Okay, so we talked to you about public. Go to your Secretary of State, LLC, S corp, or C corp. Because there's so many that try to subvert the system. You at least learn about the public side, and then if you go to the law library, you can learn about all of it. It's all at the law library. Every county has a law library because you can't have adjudicated law in the area clearly that you don't at least let the public people know where the law is at that they're going to use against you. So that's the case. They got the place for you to go get the law and read the law. The law is the word. That's it. It's not, oh man, is it any spooky stuff? No. It's how do I know the structure of business? It's by reading law dictionaries, by knowing you got to know the words in the language that you speaking. So you go get the Black's Law Dictionary. You go get the fourth, fifth, or sixth, or seventh, or eighth, or ninth edition. You go get the editions because now that you say, okay, we stepped into a business environment, we need this education that we were deprived of. That's all it is. You walked into a jurisdiction where these sounds, these words, these laws are putting bonds on you. Whether they're good bonds, good debts, bad debts, good indentures, bad debentures, all these different words are putting bonds on you. And so in the public, there's general words. In the private, there's contracts. People actually are saying, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to keep our word. Well, guess what? They're supposed to do that in the public. Keep their word. But that's neither here nor there. We're talking on this episode about public trust versus private trust. Because so many, we're not talking to the ones that even really say they're in public trust because you know the benefit of you being there or not being there. That's why you're listening to the vault, is because you know the difference and you want the difference or you don't want the difference. And we're talking about at the vault when it comes to private trusteeship, it's just managing the family estate properly. We could share many periodicals that share how families estates, how energy, how currency that has been developed or assets under management have not shifted properly through successive generations. So when you see the domination of families throughout periods of time, it's because they understand this language. They speak that language. That's why this language is ruling the planet right now, which is English. But they do have more people that speak other languages than English, but there are quite a few that people that speak English to a very high degree. Whereas China, we already know it's a billion people that speak the two languages that they have in their country, Cantonese and Mandarin. We know that. So we just want to put out there to what they call the public trust or the private trustees, honestly, that yes, that's what it is. The public trust is no negotiations. It's winner takes all, and we know who the winner is, and in turn, it's take the scraps as a secondary citizen. Why? Because the trustee is obviously in the highest position because they're the steward. So they at any moment can dictate what the beneficiary gets. There is no benefit of being in a position of being able to be dictated to. But some people desire that, ladies and gentlemen. Some people desire the public. They desire to be told what to do. They don't have any nuts. They don't have any guts to stand up for themselves and their families. Oh man, I got to stand up to somebody else. Yes, you actually have to stand up to somebody else in your life. You can't get on your knees every time someone says, this is the way things are. Your family dictates the way you are. Your bloodline dictates the way you are in the private. It's private trusteeship. That dictates your everyday, daily actions. Oh no, man, I don't really come from nothing. All right. So now you have the opportunity to, when people say now you can envision something, you can envision the future. That's what you do in the private. You create things. So you have to look into the future. You have to surround yourself with what the new image of your family line is supposed to be, whether it's diamonds, baguettes, and pearls. You got to surround your mind with that. What do you mean? I can't surround myself with dirt and babies' diapers running around hanging off them? No. But for some people, they'll take that plate. For the others that are okay with currency coming into your life and you know something is supposed to be coming to you great, the faster you get onto your greatness, the faster you will manifest it. There is no holding you back. The outside thought is just that. What we need to be focused on is the inside thought. The inside thought is private, it's not public. So taking more time for within studies and growing from within is going to be the best way to do it. Many people would call it prayer. Many people would call it master grouping and mastermind and all that stuff people do. It's coming together, knowing that energies together multiply. It's like asking, is any number greater always going to beat out a number smaller? But people would like to always say, well, is that a trick question or a riddle? No, we don't play that in our universe. We play the facts. Why? Because just like the facts is that the sun's going to come up tomorrow. Whether you would like to think that it's not or not, it's going to come up. You would like to believe it. There's a slight sarcasm bone in the body that says, hey, if I could imagine it not be there just for the sake of argument and funniness, then you would. But guess what? That's the fantasy. Let's use that for productive use. Productive use is envisioning our future and actually going to it and being there and seeing it and knowing that it's ours and not living in the murk and the mar of, oh no, there's not enough on the planet for everybody. Sure, it isn't. There's not enough space for people to have their own house and mansion. Yeah, right. It's a different time, ladies and gentlemen. It's public trust versus private trust. It's that simple. It's people in the public saying, hey, we ain't got our family together. And then you got people in the private and they're actually looking to take over and eat people's lunch in the public. They're looking to eat families' lunch. They're looking to take your lunch. They're looking to bully you and tell you, guess what? There's nothing you can do about it. Make sure you're walking in the store with the mask on. So common sense says, well, I don't need to watch the news. Well, if there's a sign that says we won't let you in the store with a mask and it's pretty big and apparent, it's like, well, damn, okay, you got to go get the mask. It's no big deal because I got to go in here real quick. It's no big deal. But you don't walk around with it. People are walking around with these things, and ladies and gentlemen, you want to breathe real air. Whether that's got something in it or not, it's called evolution. The dinosaurs died off. Maybe their air got them too. But as it stands right now, it's private or it's public. And we know the difference. We really do. And we want you all to know that as well. So we appreciate you all for tuning in live or listening to replay. It's always appreciated. Uh, Somebody said something. I'm trying to see what they actually wrote. Appreciate everybody peace to everybody that's in the actual chat. You know, it's been a while since you all have come into the vault and typed into the chat. We appreciate you all, and just it's been a blessing for a while to keep doing the episodes. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, you know what happened," and this, then the third. And ladies and gentlemen, the times have just gotten a lot more serious. You know, we see the benefit of just leveling up. It's so critical right now. It's so critical. And so many people have lost their luster. They've lost their gut. They lost their 8 hours of work for their own family mentality. There should be no negotiation on anybody working for their family for 8 hours right now in the world. But for some odd reason, people have been programmed to go work a job. Oh man, I'm gonna wait for a handout to come to me. And that's where your family will perish just because of the fact that you want to be an employee. Some people say, you can't name one. They don't call them wealthy employees, ladies and gentlemen. That's just the bottom line. Some people say, well, is it all about the money? The ones that say that, they're not going to just get off the post. The ones that know that capital is in different environments, because when you step into the private, it is more human capital. You're still doing mental capacity things, and you're still doing physical things. Farming. You're still doing things with housing. You're still doing those things in the private as well. Developing waterways. You're doing those things. There is no you're not physically doing anything in the private. It's just one of those things that you see in the public where people have actually in the public been dumbed down to think that, oh, technology is their solution to everything. Technology is the solution to every problem. If technology was the solution, why are people not having jobs? And why aren't they going to have jobs? It's because the technological age has already eliminated the jobs. They call them non-essentials. People don't want to hear that they don't need to be at a cash register at a store. That's just the bottom line. They already have self-checkout items. They have ATMs that people use at banks. It's really easy to adapt. and people will adapt. But by then, there'll be a total wipeout. That's why we've already predicted this. It's like when Robert Kiyosaki predicted it, 10, 20 years ago. People are like, oh no, I can't believe he's telling it that people that, and he did, and it's okay, because why? There are people that, hey, at the end of the day, they're going to get rich regardless of whether you do or not. Why? Because they're focused on their family. They understand they got to have a preparer's mindset. They're not focused on having a broke mindset. Oh man, we can't do this, honey. We can't do that, honey. Oh, woe is us, honey. And how are we going to get this done, honey? And it's not you just taking the 5 minutes of your life or 10 minutes of your life and sitting there and saying, okay, whatever, universe, whatever, what am I here to do? And start asking yourself that. Why? Because public school said all the answers were outside of you, inside of a book. You got to read a book to know everything. Well, at the end of the day, it's time to go within, just like people having to sit their butts in the house, because you got to go within. Because it's private, it's not public. And when you go within, you're able to get back to a point of 0 point to create. And it's funny because we can even talk about, for all the traders out there, Fibonacci. Fibonacci is truly a part of that mindset. It's definitely a part of that mindset. Fibonacci is one of the best uh, algorithms out there for the lay and the layman, for sure. And that's the sequence that trustees will get, or traders will get when they utilize that. But we just appreciate everybody for, once again, like we say, tuning in live or listening to replay. We're definitely open to having some quick questions real quick. Come through the chat. If you guys have any questions pertaining to public and private trust, feel free to type into the chat. We're definitely going to go ahead and leave that up for a second here. But we just definitely appreciate you all for coming through. Just hope that you all are doing your best to make your dreams come true. Out here navigating this precious waters that we're walking on, and it's critical times. Some people say, I had a mentor say, oh, it's not critical time. They're just looking at it as a regular day because they're so prepared in their mind. But that's for the ones that are prepared. The ones that are prepared, we're walking through it like, okay, this is one of those another moments. It's a deja vu. We've already prepared. We've already seen this as we walk through the universe already with our mind. We can literally see the fact that we know that we are right here where we need to be. And this is where you have to keep moving forward. There is no, oh man, should I turn around? Is the mission halfway complete? No, the mission is where you are right now. And the mission needs to continue going on with your family. Oh man, I gotta learn about my family now. I don't know. I don't have one. You hear all these different reasons, but it's not about that. The question we have in the chat is, when we have the next seminar. What next seminar? Like, we don't do seminars at the vault. We have private trustee workshops, and those are for trustees when they enroll. And they have the webinar for the trader stuff. Have our trading partner Cornell, that has webinars for that. And that was to a Samoan king, or yeah, Samoan king. I have someone that typed into the chat and asked when was the next seminar. So, never been into the seminar gang. That's those are for the seminar junkies. They want to go to seminars and they want to believe in somebody's going to give them hope for their family. Secretly in their mind, they're begging for security. They wish someone would take care of them privately, just like the guru that they're sitting in front of. Oh man, if this guy would give me $1 million, I'll probably stop doing what I'm doing. Sure you would. Why? Just because people were easily bought out for $1 million, just like that. Oh, I'll be a seminar junkie for a whole year if I knew I could make $1 million. That's a Yeah, right. Well, okay, if that's the case, how come the ones that are seminar junkies that are going every year, all year, and they're not millionaires? Because it's not about that. It's about taking action. It's about taking action for your family. And we really do appreciate everyone listening live or in the replay, um, because it's something that's important. How do we start? Give us the rundown, step by step, of what to do, what to read to get started. Is it what to do Like I say, it's probably best to get a consultation so you can at least know where you are and get a proper. See, that's the thing. You can't get a private answer on a public airway. Like, there's no generals to this. It's a private family situation. You have to invest in yourself. You see, we asked even our trading partner Cornell, and I was so loved. I appreciated hearing him say that because he said, there's been times in my life I've invested my last. It's like, no way. There's no way in hell you gonna tell me that you could actually say that live and in color, like, or you're not lying to me, you're telling me the truth. That's so important for somebody to be able to hear, for somebody that's successful. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but I've heard that years and years and years of people saying, oh man, put in my last, blah blah blah. It's like, really, man, you put in your last day? Like, yeah, I had to. Like, I just knew this was it, and it was like, wow. So your intuition is the thing that's gonna carry you through your mindset. You already know what it is. But if you're not in tune with nature, if you're in front of the television, which is giving you these waves in your eyes and messing you up, and you looking at all of this, you looking at distractions, how are you focused on your family? People say, well, I got to take a break. And that's why you in the situation you in. The job made you think you need to take a goddamn break. How you going to take a break on your family bloodline? Every day something needs to get done. Every day. Did you not? You want to hear that again? Every day. You got to brush your teeth every day. You got to do something for your family estate every day. Oh man, that's so hard. I wasn't programmed to do that. We know that. Program yourself. I don't know where to start. You know how you start? By saying, okay, where am I at? Uh, Do you gonna do the consultation? What are you gonna do? You gonna get the Black Law Dictionary? Some people, they've heard this episode. They hear, oh man, okay, I gotta go get the Black Law Dictionary because I gotta learn this language. Okay, the vault. We spent 2 years before we even moved into trust just by knowing the Black Law Dictionary. That was such an edifying position because you know what you're speaking, even on a regular everyday level. Now your life has been improved in that respect. So many people get that. But guess what? It's not for the people that don't believe it's business, not personal. The people that don't believe that it's business, not personal, they're done. They want a handout. Oh man, why can't the universe just give me something? Because it doesn't work that way. You have to breathe. And that means you have to take air in, you have to push air out. You can't just hold the same breath your whole life. So you start with, the Black's Law will probably be a quick one outside of the consultation because the consultation will give you more of a direct route of, okay, are you an employee or are you an entrepreneur? Are you in the proper position as an entrepreneur? Like we said, we talk to entrepreneurs that come through with consultations. They make over 100K. I mean, these people making over 30K a month, and literally, they don't know what an operating agreement is and don't have an operating agreement in place. That's crazy. But that's the business market, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why the vault has made it a point to establish those private relationships with lawyers and all these different people. Because when you do that, you you're building your family business, not someone else's, for protection. Your family business, quote unquote, is the last name, the things that you want to do. Now, if you guys, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Yeah, public versus private trust. So, do you suggest a status change first, or uh, do you hold on? We're gonna read somebody's question. It says, do you suggest a status change first, or educating yourself on the private side first? A status change. It's so interesting to still hear people talk about that like in 220. It's like, seriously, like, come on, like, at the end of the day, it's business, not personal. Like, what's your status? These Moors out here, if you're a merchant, you're a Moor. If you're a Moor, you're a merchant. Whatever it is, like, you're a merchant. That's what Moors were. They were merchants. So how all of a sudden, we're at this point where they're not even doing business. Like, these guys are trying to do private business. And it's like, you're right, but you want to do it in a way in which we're on the private side and we're still talking about credit. We're still talking about finance and capital. That's an essential industry. So it's not like because the public has shifted and changed, that there is no private conversation about capital and major investment, period, across the board. So when it's like, well, what, you need a status change, you probably need more money than you need status change. Just because when you have the capital, you can travel. When you have the capital, you're not stuck because of a title. People say, oh, the title, the wealth dictates your title. Oh man, I can't believe you said that. That means like it's some system in place that I don't know about, and it's some big system. It is. Be very clear and established on that. You live in a class system. The system is you either get rich or die trying. Oh man, I'm gonna just take the easy route. I'm about to go work 40 hours a week. I'm gonna go ahead and walk back and forth. How do you even get to the job and make money before you get there? They are expecting you to come with something, but nothing. And we've heard everyone that leaves the public and say, "Oh, as soon as I went to the private, my life exponentially grew." It's not a coincidence. Oh man, a coincidence? It's not a coincidence. People want to believe in that coincidence stuff. Oh, it's a coincidence. Yeah, right. Just like you're on the web stream right now, alive and breathing, there is no coincidence. It's the truth. And you either are going to live with it or you're going to live in a fantasy land. Fantasy. The past. So when it comes to, what they say, uh, shall we do a status change? What status change? That's interesting. They know they're in a commercial jurisdiction, and now they're trying to put someone on notice. Okay, so did you put them on notice, or are you over here trying to change something that someone else has supposedly said you are? Someone else said this. The public said this. Remember, this is the documents that you didn't even get to check on and approve every time it's written. Every time something's written, are you invited into the room? Is your family a part of the whole nightly priesthood? No. And if they are, great. Those are paid positions anyways. We heard Donald Trump say, he said, I spent $1 billion becoming the president. You saw Mike Bloomberg, you saw these guys, they spent $1 billion, they didn't become the president. I spent $1 billion, I became the president. I said, oh my gosh, this guy is literally bragging that he spent $1 billion to become the president. It's like, how crazy is that? Like, who else has a billion and is ready to spend $1 billion? He's like, look, everybody can't do it. I'm a special guy. I can spend $1 billion. Okay, and I can still be able to leave, and I'm gonna be able to leave with more money than I left. You understand? This is a paid position. I actually had to pay to get more money. Private trust. No need for a status change. He didn't need a status change. You change your status, do your cash flow. Some people want to talk about status change. We say you talk about putting on people on notice by having the proper contract law. Remember, if you're going to be in private trust situation, you got to have contract skills. So obviously, you either go in the law library or you got the dictionary and you're able to put contract together for that particular situation because you're letting people know, hey, this is my status commercially or publicly or privately. Like people say, oh, I want to put them on notice for the driver's license or this, that, and third. It's like, okay, well, do what you do. And remember, the public is a general consensus. No one's really saying, hey, you can't do it unless they're saying, well, you can't do it. And if they didn't say that, then people go forward, move forward. So when people put people on notice in the public, it's truly that, which is beautiful on that side. You see that there's more notice on the public, but on the private side, there's still notice, ladies and gentlemen. It's just private correspondence. That's all it is. It's private. So we're gonna go through with some more questions and then wrap it up. Someone asked about the mentor training. Just contact the Vault Christian at trustchristian.com. We'll have that in the post. It should say that inside of the description. Email Christian at trustchristian.com for private trustee training. Um, I have a non-registered EIN and it's in the business trust. Like, first of all, how can you have an EIN non-registered? See, this is the type of stuff in the private our mentors would almost I wouldn't say they would laugh at you. They're gonna, what the hell are you talking about? How can you have something be non-registered if you got it from a public source? Did you create this? So then they created their own so-called EIN. It can't be the same thing because then it's called copyright. There's an organization, it's a three-letter name. They have that word EIN, period. It's actually an acronym for Employer Identification Number. So they have that in there and it's copyrighted because you can see that it has a C on their stuff. So when you see that, it's like, well, how could you say that yours is the same exact thing? So we already know you don't know what the hell you're doing. You're in the public. You're going off public knowledge. Private people create their own, will be considered private things. And it's not even trying to mimic what's in the public already that's got people in quote unquote bondage. They're not doing that. They're creating their own algorithm. So it's not a non registered. And it's inside of a business trust. So how does that sound? You're gonna put an employer identification number inside of a trust? That makes no sense. Why would you need to put one number in there? You might as well put a bunch of numbers in there, right? Because why? If it can hold one, can it hold more than one? Oh no, I didn't think about that one yet. I know because you didn't go through private trustee training, because you're not a trustee, because you looked at some stuff over the internet. The trustee training is not over the internet. That's just being honest. There are a few that want to teach trustee training over the internet, but they don't teach it over the internet. They have a trustee training goes on it because that's the way it is. That's why it's called private trustee training. It's because it's in the private. It's not in the public. That's the difference. Oh man, you trying to tell me it's somewhere I gotta go that I'm not at right now? Yeah. Why? Because you can clearly see in the actions. There is no statement that says, "Well, I have one in there. What do I do now?" What is your job as a trustee? What does the contract say you're supposed to do? That's what you're supposed to do. Black's Law, what is the best edition? I like the oldest ones. Love the oldest ones. The oldest ones are always the best ones. Just you really get to see that common law, that right off the boat mentality of these. The law system that's in place, the words that's controlling the population. Every word is a straight bond, and that's why they word is bond. It's no, like you say, it's no coincidence. Don't think it's a coincidence to the cliches. You're not living your life on happenstance. You're living your life on purpose. It's very important to be living your life and your family on purpose. So, best edition is obviously the oldest ones you can get your hands on, honestly. In the sense of UCC, we don't know what that means. Did they type something previously? And it's secure party. All right, let's go back and see what they typed because I clearly do not know what they typed. Do you suggest the status educate yourself on a public or a private side first in the sense of the UCC or secure party? Uh, of of course, we would just definitely say that, not to be like, obviously you're a direct person, so asking the question directly, it involves the direct answer of, of course there's a level of putting people on notice for sure, man. You got to do that, especially when you're walking around in the commercial jurisdictions, and they're commercial jurisdictions. That's why it's called the public. It's not a free for all, private handy dandy. It's definitely a change of pace on the public side where you see, oh wow, once again, we're just going to use something that not to make slight of the situation, but when they say, oh, you have to wear a mask when you walk in public environments, it's for a public side rule. It's not necessarily on the private side, but it's distinction. And so sometimes putting those notices on notice is good, but at the same time, you don't put that notice on notice and then you go out and you say, oh, we're going to go out to the public and try to act like we're not a part of the system. It's like, well, you're not a part of the system because you've put people on notice, you've made the proper, you put at the because once you leave the public, you don't go in the public and do things like that. You don't go in the public and start shaking your ass and stay and say, hey, we're private. You don't just start shaking your ass and saying, this is how it is on the private. Start getting on some type of soapbox or something like that. It's not really like that on the private side. On the private side, people just kind of corroborate together, work together. Really put their families on the same line and really just do business together. And they obviously have family ties together, but they focus heavily on family, whereas the public side has a different approach towards it. So uh, when it comes to the public and private, it this separates that. Some people would try to say, well, is that really heavily public and private? Ladies and gentlemen, it's contract. So when we talk about that in the private, you definitely just want to go ahead and get a consultation if you're going to go forward with trustee training. We always share with people that trustee training would make you a better creditor and knowing how to do contract as a creditor, because we're all creditors. But it's like, okay, this knowledge has become vogue, this knowledge has become passe, because okay, a lot of people are like, well, I don't know how this applies to my everyday life, but contract applies to your everyday life. Why? Because it deals with your word. So when you say, or when the question was posed, hey, do we move into trusteeship, or do we keep playing with our asses? And that's what it comes down to. Are you playing grab ass, or are you get ready to go to work? Are you ready to put in that work? Ladies and gentlemen, don't think that I ain't spending no sleepless nights with the studies. Don't think that you haven't fallen asleep in the studies. Don't think when Cornell the trader comes on and says he put in 3 to 5 hours a day. This is definitely a course in life that you dedicate yourself to the study of trusteeship, because that's what you are. You're just studying what you are. Granted, it comes from a book, but at the same time, that at least you are aware of how to have logical conversations with people, and really have people skills, to really have social skills. Because when people say, "Oh, you don't have social skills," and they're involving social distancing, what happens to people's social skills? People look people straight in the eyes and don't know if they're sick or not sick. They wouldn't help them if they were sick. They would just be like, hey, that son of a bitch has got to die. They're sick. I don't want to touch them. I'm not trying to catch that shit. That's how people think. That's how people think. Oh man, I can't touch that person. They might be sick. That's how it is, right? Right. What happened to loss of human empathy? People have lost that because of social distancing. I'm not going to touch you. What? Did you wash your hands? Hey man, did you wash your hands? Everybody's want to just this germ stuff. So it's business, not personal. So people might hit you with the elbow bump. They might tell you, just give you the head nod. All these different things. So peace and blessings to everybody that tuned in live or listening to replay. We always appreciate you. Yeah, you need to hit the private for that. Black God. They'll definitely say that. Great questions tonight. And once again, the UCC is so interesting because it's just like, well, if you understand it as contract, then that means you have to be private. That means you have to deal with the private. You understand it as private. It's not. Of course, it's a mandatory. You come into the private, you know contract. It's that simple. So of course that's on your repertoire. Why? Because that's the public remedy. That's the public. What they call, people try to say, oh, it's discharge. It's like, well, it's not a discharge. It's first in time, first in line. Period. On all assets. Oh no, I gotta put paperwork in place. Look, if you don't think that you need to make sure that your life is a part of, if you're not a part of the commercial system, then fine. The public system, that's fine. But there are people that are part of the private system, um, and they're operating just fine. That's why they call them private companies. So appreciate you all for tuning in live or listening to replay. Be blessed on everything that you got going on. Christian at Trust Christian for the email consultations. Look forward to hearing from you.